Once upon a time, in the days before anything much was organized, and when people were all pretty much alike, and had not yet learned to be doctors or politicians or secretaries or movie stars or optometrists, there were never any holidays because everyone was way too busy. What they were busy doing was taking stuff. They spent all their time either taking stuff or trying to take stuff or planning to take stuff from each other or fixing the walls and fences and barbed wire in their section of the jungle so no one could take stuff from them. In those days, it was considered absolutely necessary to have a lot of stuff, and taking it gave people a stimulating feeling. When they took something especially good, something big, the feeling started in the back of their neck and spread down across their back and made a tingle in their left foot. This feeling was pleasant, mostly because it was the only feeling anyone had ever had, except maybe being scared or hungry. Several techniques have been developed for taking stuff. These techniques were first swiping. This was the most difficult because naturally, few people were foolish enough to leave any of their stuff lying around unguarded. The second and most popular method was to find someone smaller than you, give them a bash, and take whatever stuff they had at the time. The third was to find someone your own size, sneak up behind them, and give them an unexpected bash. Then you could grab their stuff and run like crazy. This method, although dangerous, had the advantage of being healthful, as the bashing and running promoted deep breathing and increased heart rate, as well as keeping the waistline down. Now, in time, the smaller people learned to be very clever at hiding and swiping, and the larger people developed a protective layer of bone across the back of their skulls. And some of the medium-sized discovered they could tell big lies about the amount of stuff they had hidden. And that was about the same as actually having stuff. And so a status quo came to exist, and it balanced out pretty well for everyone. For everyone, that is, except Marvin Ook. Marvin Ook lived in a rather provincial area of the jungle, and his only neighbors were named Glug, Hawk, Mordley, and Lester. Now, Glug, Hawk, Mordley, and Lester had each accumulated about the same amount of stuff. They were all about the same size, and they had equally excellent walls, and so it became difficult for them to increase their stuff. One day, Mordley would bash Glug and take his shirt and an egg beater, but the next day, Hawk would bash Mordley and get his shirt and a fountain pen, and so on. They're all getting bashed a great deal, and in the long run, there was no percentage in it. So after a while, they all concentrated mostly on taking stuff from Marvin. This was not an easy thing to do. Marvin was the smallest and the most simple and the least devious of all the people. He didn't even have a proper wall or fence, and as a result, he had no stuff. In fact, Marvin never had anything. He lived on toadstools, since no one would take them. The only feeling he ever experienced was when no one hit him on the head. He really enjoyed not being hit. So it wasn't long before Glug and Hawk and Mordley and Lester gave up even trying to take stuff from Marvin. It wasn't worth the trouble it took to bash him because, although he bashed easily, Marvin was concussion-prone, and he merely fell quietly face forward and didn't yell or holler or do anything that was fun. And so in this part of the village, the status became more quo than was suitable. Actually, the status became overquoed, and everyone sat behind their walls and got restless. Mordley became particularly uptight about the situation. He was afraid he would lose his skills at taking stuff. So he rushed out and found Marvin Ook, and in his mind he pretended that Marvin was carrying a whole bunch of stuff. He gave Marvin an excellent bash and pretended to take all the imaginary stuff away from him. But it didn't work. He didn't get any feeling or tingle at all. He went back home and fretted some more. It didn't work to pretend, he said to himself, and he began to think. Suddenly a big idea came to him. A really big idea. If I'm going to practice on Marvin, I must have it as close to the real thing as possible. Marvin has got to have some stuff that I can take away from him. He paused because he had to make up a word to express the odd idea in his mind. Give, he said. I will give Marvin something first, then I can take it. So Murtley searched through all his stuff and he picked out a spoon with a broken handle and he went to find Marvin. When Marvin saw him, he sighed and looked around for a soft spot to fall on. He was, of course, very surprised, even shocked, when Murtley stopped in front of him and made no bashing gestures. Look, said Murtley, making a peculiar twist in his face, which later they called a smile. Look, I have some stuff here I want to... Murtley swallowed and continued with some effort. I want to give you this stuff. He pushed the spoon forward. Marvin backed away. Murtley has sprung a gasket, he thought to himself. I'd better get out of here quickly, as he could be dangerous. But Murtley anticipated Marvin's escape, and he seized him by the arm. Here, he said, and placed the spoon in Marvin's hand. I want you to have this. Then he stepped back and he prepared to give Marvin a bash and take the stuff in the usual approved manner. But before he could do a single thing, before he could move even one muscle, he felt a strange new feeling. A feeling 10 times more powerful than the feeling he always had when he took stuff. It started in the back of his chest and it spread not just through his back and his left foot, but all over. He began to tingle in both feet and both hands and on top of his head. The new feeling was so pleasant and so powerful, Murtley caught his breath and sat down on the ground. Ha! And again he made that kind of funny twist on his face in Marvin's direction. Marvin ran away. Who would have suspected, said Murtley. Giving stuff is... He searched for a noise he could use to describe all that was happening. Looser, he said, then meeper, neeper, nipper, nisser. Nicer. Nicer sounded exactly right. Giving stuff, Murtley thought, is a whole lot nicer than taking stuff. Murtley soon found out the part of the new feeling was a desire to let everyone else know about it. So he did. And another great discovery was made. The secret of the new feeling has been passed down from century to century, but sometimes we don't see too much evidence of it, except at Christmas time, when instead of bashing and taking, people are smiling and giving, and it feels very nice.